Hey everyone, welcome to the Your Life podcast, episode 240 of the podcast. Make sure wherever you listen, you like, subscribe, 5-star rate and review the pod as we do this every week. Let's jump right into the market update, of the week. So as we sit here, let's jump into the chart. It's actually been a kind of a volatile 5 days for the market. First and foremost, we've seen, again, we talked about September being relatively, historically speaking, a slower month for the market. We saw August be a kind of a really boom and rise for the market. And now we're seeing September being that pullback, that correction, that breather so far to start off the month. And it's proven to be true historically. And now it's proven to be true in real time as the market's taken a little bit of dip. But again, par for the course. If you still look at year to date, really strong. We saw that we had a dip in July, starting in July, that rebounded in August, and now we'll see what September holds. But there might be a bit of a breather for the market in September if there isn't data to persuade otherwise. We are getting data on the economy, on jobs, on all things relating to the stock market. The August private payrolls rose by 99,000, which is the smallest gain since 2021, and it was far below estimates. So companies hired just 99,000 workers last month, which is less than the downwardly revised number they had in July, and it was below the consensus forecast of 140,000. So um, that's showing that the economy is slowing down, and it might be slowing down at a pace faster than we know, right? Like I call it like a quiet recession. It's quiet. It's quiet, but I think there's some things happening underneath that we're starting to see the cracks in. It hasn't fully broken through the surface yet, but it's starting to happen. So private sector's payrolls grew at the weakest pace in more than 3.5 years. August was the weakest month for job growth since January 2021. Still, the ADP showed that while hiring has slowed considerably, only a few sectors reported actual job losses. Professional and business services declined 16,000. Manufacturing jobs lost 8,000, and information services declined by 4,000. So it's really those jobs that are showing most of the losses. And again, the stock market, let's go over what's going on. We have fresh labor market data that we got, of course, this morning. The market's very sensitive to labor data, very sensitive to what the Fed's going to do with inflation, what they're going to do when they have their meeting to decide if they're going to cut rates this month or push it for another month, or maybe cut rates by 50 basis points rather than 25. There's going to be a lot of decisions to be made in this next Fed monumental decision time this month. So we'll see what that entails. But for the most part, again, a solid start for the year for the market. Solid start for the year. If people have not been investing, um, that just doesn't bode well because it's been a really, really solid start to the year. Um, and you're seeing that across the board. Let's jump into current updates, business news updates. So Stanford, we're talking about the top business schools for career growth. So of course, I went to business school at University of Chicago Booth, top business school, which I enjoyed my 2 years full time there. And so people wonder why they go. A lot of people go for different reasons. Me, it was for a different career change. I wanted to go into a transition to a career that I was really, really highly interested in, which was in investment banking and do it in a big city. And the only way I could do that from Iowa was go to a top business school. So that's what I did. And that's what ended up happening for me. It kind of worked out as planned. So other people go for different reasons. Maybe they want that, I would say that experience, the education, they want a different network. They want to learn things. They want to become a leader in corporate. So many different reasons. But I do say you have to go to a top school to really get the ROI versus not. But Stanford snagged the top spot on LinkedIn's top MBA programs list, a data backed ranking of the best business schools to help you get ahead in your career. Stanford jumped up from the number 2 spot, overtaking Harvard, which ranks below in CED, and it's featured campus around the world. So this is not just a national domestic one. This is around the world. It listed 58 MBA programs in North and Latin America, 29 in Europe and the Middle East, and 13 in Asia. I'm actually curious. Let's dive into this list because I want to see more. So we're clicking on a list to get a better view. Stanford 1, INSEAD, Harvard, Wharton, MIT, Indian School of Business, Kellogg, Tuck. Where is Booth? Okay, Booth comes in at 10. That's not high enough. Booth should be higher. But this is again LinkedIn's. base of job aspirations afterwards. Bunch of different recruiting platforms. US World and News Report is one that I've always looked at as the holy grail of the recruiting platform. As far as, excuse me, as the business school platform. So really cool to see that for those who are considering business school or already taking business school, just want to keep up with what's happening, which is my case. SpaceX pulls employees from Brazil. So Elon Musk owns SpaceX, has started pulling its non-Brazilian employees from Brazil and advised other staff not to travel to the country for business or personal reasons. This is cited by anonymous report sources from the Wall Street Journal. The move comes amid Musk's escalating battle with the Brazilian court and regulators, which recently banned his social media platform. So Brazil has actually banned X, formerly Twitter, from their country. You can't use it in their country. You have to use a VPN, or you definitely can't use the app. And so X in the country and froze bank accounts. They also froze bank accounts belonging to his satellite internet provider, Starlink, this week. So Starlink agreed to block access to X for its Brazilian customers after initially threatening to defy the ban. So X is banned in Brazil. So Elon Musk is retaliating and taking his non-Brazilian employees from Brazil and advising his staff to not travel to the country. Maybe he's retaliating, but also being cautious because it seems like he's fearful of something or some sort of retort from the government over there. Funny enough, because Brazil is a hot topic in conversation right now because the NFL is having a game in Brazil tomorrow, the Packers and the Eagles, if I'm not mistaken. And they're talking about the safety of the country and just making sure that people can do it. There was this player that spoke out that he didn't feel safe. The NFL advised them not to leave their hotel. So Brazil's in the news recently, and I don't know how much this is factual or not. Never been to Brazil. Definitely want to travel there at one point in my life, but interestingly enough, they're in the news. We did talk about job openings. Again, they fall to the 2021 low. Again, it's not that quiet pre-recession thing happening where we're seeing cracks in the job market. We're seeing the Fed policy start to take shape, slowing things down, potentially slowing spending, starting to really take shape. And so really going to be a situation where this starts to take shape more and more. And we'll see if consumers really show that they're struggling, and that's one of the reasons why it will show is less spending, and less job openings means less income and then potentially less spending. So that's going to be big to watch going forward. We talked about in the video last episode. There's news that they were getting a DOJ, Department of Justice subpoena, but they said they didn't get one. So on Tuesday, Bloomberg reported that the U.S. Justice Department had sent subpoenas to NVIDIA and other companies in escalation of antitrust probe into whether the AI chip leader violated competition laws to stay dominant. So, of course, Department of Justice is here to make a free and open market, to not allow monopolies and companies to take over markets and really hurt consumers by being able to charge whatever they want if they're the only one in the market. And so they're actually now probing into AI and probing into NVIDIA. Is NVIDIA a monopolistic company that just has total control over the AI chip market? That might be something they look into. Regulators are said to be looking into complaints that NVIDIA makes it difficult to switch to competitors and that it punishes customers who don't use its AI chips exclusively. So that will be a one thing that people will look into. Um, that's going to be one that they're going to look into. The NVIDIA and AI, NVIDIA has just been dominating the AI chip market, and so I think that will be something they look into heavily, especially the Department of Justice. So we'll keep our eyes on that one. That's going to be really interesting. ESPN is going dark on DirecTV ahead of the NFL season as cable takes its last stand. So, for the second year in a row, Disney yanked its TV channels from a major pay TV provider on Sunday. 11 million plus direct TV subscribers lost access to Disney owned channels ESPN, ABC, FX after the two companies failed to agree on carriage fees. That's what TV providers pay to networks like Disney to carry their channels. DirecTV says it wants more flexibility. So pretty much DirecTV wants more flexibility to create cheaper channel packages for customers, but Disney's saying, hey, it wants premium rates for their premium offerings, especially sports coming into town now with the NFL season kicking off tonight. This is something I saw earlier. It just, again, another battle of corporations trying to figure out what to do. We'll keep our eye on it. I think it's an interesting story nonetheless. We talked about the job market reaching a tipping point. Nine, like we did talk about that heavily. So that was basically, if I'm not mistaken, basically our news update. The biggest ones we saw there. So let's dive into the question of the week. That's always what we want to get into. The question of the week. There's multiple, and we'll dive into which ones are the most important right now, which is what is the number one spending category across all generations? What's the number one spending category across all generations? I wish they gave us a look into the categories, but I'm assuming it's food, leisure. What is it? Is it food, leisure? Obviously, like rent, mortgage, all that stuff, but I don't think they're counting that. Um, I would say I don't think it's shopping. I would say food. Housing. Okay. Housing. Okay. I didn't know they were going to just go based on actual non-discretionary fixed expenses. Of course, it's housing. Across all Americans, housing costs average 33% of total spend, and that just makes sense. So again, we were tricked. We thought we were just talking about discretionary fund spending, but this is actually all spending. So housing, of course, is going to be your biggest. Shelter is going to be your biggest part of your budget. And that's what we teach, of course. And again, it depends on what you want it to be, but a lot of people keep it around 33-ish% of their income. Could be lower, could be higher, but that's a good gauge roughly to show there. So that's an interesting enough play there. So let's go into our next one. What is the new interest rate on federal student loans? What is the new interest rate on federal student loans? Um, so for the 2024-2025 school year, it was 5.5% for the 2023-2024 school year. And now the new rate is 6.53%. So that jump up. And if you're not seeing it here on if I don't share my screen, but it's actually an interesting chart, so I want to share it. So federal student loan rates, you have graduate professional, undergraduate, and parent and graduate professional. And again, you saw rates dip in 2021 when they lowered rates to really combat the COVID pandemic. And then, of course, excuse me, when lowered rates to combat the pandemic. So you see the lag time, rates lower. Then, of course, now we're raising rates to combat inflation. And so you're seeing the federal student loan rates, of course, increase. And they're still going up. They haven't leveled off yet. But now, starting September, starting this month, if we see a change in policy from the Fed, we'll see those rates not only level off, but probably dip here in the next year or two. So that's something to watch out for, ladies and gentlemen. That's something to keep your eyes on them going forward. Well, that's all we have for this week. Make sure wherever you're watching and listening, subscribe, like, share, and we'll talk to you next